Hi, welcome to the Modern Beauty YouTube channel. I am your host, Monina, and today's episode we're going to show you how to do a really quick, basic daytime look that any busy professional or busy mom can achieve. So let's get started. First thing is we're gonna do something called the Faces method. So we're gonna start with F, which is your foundation. We've already prepped her skin. I look at her skin tone, her undertone, and that's how I determine the foundation color. So with her, I'm going to actually be mixing two different colors, which I'm sure a lot of you have done in the past, and if you haven't, that is something you can do. In case you've got one that's too light and maybe another one's just a little too dark, you can mix the two. And I've got this on a palette, but you can put it on the back of your hand, just make sure it's nice and clean. I'm going to mix the two together. I did a 50-50. I'm gonna apply this everywhere except for under the eyes. So I like to just dab it on the face first. A little goes a long way. We have little vellus hairs, so if you were to blend the makeup up, you're gonna pull up the hair. You're gonna look like you've got a little peach fuzz. So what you wanna do is either take a brush or another sponge, like a beauty blender, and now I'm going to blend this in. You want the makeup to melt into the skin. And as you notice, I'm not applying any more makeup, but there's residue on the back of the sponge. And what I do with that is I start to slowly blend it down past her chin and her jawline, and then also a little bit into the hairline. So I'm pressing and melting this into the skin. You don't want to go in there and pull because then you're just removing the product. Also, quick tip, when you use a beauty blender, you want to actually make sure that you've wet it because it is quite porous. And so if you were to apply this directly onto wet foundation or a cream foundation, most of that product is going to get absorbed into the sponge and then you're just wasting your foundation. You saw how little amount I put on there? But look how it just melts into the skin. Kind of take a look to the side. And it looks like skin. Turn this way. And there's the skin without anything on it. Okay, let's go ahead and apply this to the rest of the face. Again, I slightly dab it all over. And now I'm going to come in and I'm going to blend that right into the skin. Good foundation should feel like it's still breathing and your skin is allowed to breathe. It should feel light, airy, shouldn't feel like you have a mask on. And most foundations are buildable. So if after you've done one application and you feel like, oh, I still have some redness here or there, it's okay to kind of let it set in and then go back in and do a second layer. This is a quick look. So to save time, if you wanted to just use the one sponge, that's totally fine. I just like using the two because I don't want to overdo the application of the foundation. So I use one to apply and one to blend. And it's okay to put a little bit right on the eyelids, but not a lot. You notice I didn't actually apply foundation there. And then I'm just making sure everything is blended in nicely. So she still has her nice glow because we prepped her properly. And we've covered and helped with any discoloration in the skin. That's our foundation for our faces. So we just finished the F. Now we're gonna move on to the A, which is, I say arches for your brows. Now, if you already are blessed with nice brows, you don't have to do this step, but I did find that even though someone has nice full brows already, sometimes they can get a little unruly. So this is my tip for you, is I like to use some kind of a brow gel. So I like to use a little disposable lip brush. You can put this on the back of your hand, but I'm going to be putting it on the palette. It's a really small amount. This jar will last you quite a long time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little bit of that, and all I'm doing with this brow gel is I'm setting the brows in place. You don't need a lot, it's just there to help tame it and keep it in place. So if you have beautiful brows already and you don't really need to do much, you could just apply this to shape it and define them, and you're good to go. But if you're like me and you have those, what we call the tail ends, and they've disappeared, then having this on there first will then allow you to do little brush strokes, which I'm going to do next, of a powder to make it look like natural brow strokes, but you've got this on there so now the powder has something to grab onto and so it lasts all day. So that's all I did as far as her brows. And now I'm going to take a little brush here. I'm going to brush up the hair, make sure it's exactly where we want it. And you'll notice just doing this little grooming step, if you got nice full brows, it just makes the brows look like they're a little bit more elevated, a little bit more polished. So next step I'm gonna do now, she's got great brows. She could stop right there for her day look, but what I'm gonna show you is an additional step you can do if you do need to fill in those brows or you may be losing some hair. I know once women in our ages, in our age demographic, during menopause, or if you just had a baby, anything that has to do with hormones, sometimes we start to lose that a little bit of the hair. We start to lose it right here. I'm going to take my little angle brush right here, and I'm going to dip it into a dark brown powder eyeshadow. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in there and I'm going to lightly fill in spots that look a little thin. So I'm not drawing it on, I'm literally going in there and doing hairline strokes to fill in those little gaps or to just define the brow shape a little bit more, okay? Little goes a long way, and it's always with a light hand. I'm doing little gentle strokes and just filling in where I need to. Now again, if you already have really nice full brows, you don't feel like you have any empty spots, you could skip this part altogether. Once you're done filling it in, I like to go back and grab that little mascara wand and just brush it all out. Now if you feel like you put a little too much, you can use this to blend it out and soften those edges if you feel like you put way too much color. Add a little bit more right here. Now if it feels like every time you're putting the shadow on it feels a little clumpy, you may have put a little too much of that wax. So you can go in there, just remove some of it and then go back and clean it all up. Now we just finished F for foundation, A for arches. Next step is going to now do concealer for C. Depending on the coloring of the eyelids, what you're trying to do in the eyelids and under the eyes is you want to go half a shade lighter for the top and the bottom. What this is going to do is going to accomplish two things. Number one, if you look at someone's bare naked eyelid, there's always some kind of discoloration. So me going in there and trying to apply some type of eyeshadow, it's actually going to look a little muddy. So if you find that your eyeshadow looks muddy, it's probably because the discoloration of the eyelids is coming through the shadow. So one way to prevent that from happening is you can use a concealer right on the eyelid. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm looking at hers. This is a little too light. This might be right, just right. I'm still going to slightly lighten it as well. Again, you can mix two colors. I'm going in with a synthetic brush. Anytime you're dealing with something wet or creamy, you don't want to use regular brush hair because what's going to happen there is it's going to grab the product, but it's going to clump up and it won't distribute evenly. Whereas a synthetic brush, it's meant to pull the product and then apply it onto the skin nice and even. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to mix it up again, just like we did with the foundation. And as you see, it a little goes a long way. And I'm going to apply this from lash line to right under the brows. It really does open up the eye area doing just this step, because it brightens everything up. Open your eyes. So as you can see, this eye looks way more open and awake compared to this eye. So we're preparing it to then go to the next step, which is applying the eyeshadow. So again, I'm going to go from lash line all the way up to brows. The nice thing too is doing this step, you can go right underneath the brows and do a nice cleanup. And now you've also not just brightened the eyelids, but you've also defined the brows as well. I also like to then take that residue and go right in the center and down the nose. Any part of the face that has high points, that's where you're going to brighten and lighten. I'm going to go right in the tear duct too, because I really want this spot to open up as well. Now, under the eyes, we're going to do the same process. Mix those two. Now obviously, when you go to choose the color, you can choose the one that matches perfectly. I'm going to go right in the tear duct and bring it down. And what I want you to do is pay attention to where I'm taking it. I'm right under the eyes and I'm coming straight down on top of the cheekbone, almost like in a diamond or a triangle right under the eyes. Again, what this is going to do is going to help with any discoloration under the eyes. It's going to open it up. I like to then grab my sponge that I used earlier and I'm going to go in there. That's why I like this shape of this, because I can go right in there. I can squeeze the sponge, go in there, and just blend it out. So with color theory, when you're talking about highlighting and contouring, highlighting is where you want anything that you want to bring attention to or you want it to come forward. So this area we really want to just brighten and open up. And if you go and look at beauty magazines right now that I pointed this out, you're gonna see that highlight little triangle under all their eyes. So it really does open up the center of the face. I'm not moving the product, I'm just helping it melt into the skin. So we did F, we did A for arches, C for concealer. Next thing we're going to do now is we will move on to E, which is eyes. So since this is a simple day look, we're gonna stick with just 2 colors. This is my neutral palette. If you know what colors look good for you, if you know what your undertones are, that is what's going to help you determine which eyeshadow palettes work for you. This is more of a neutral palette, so I can use this on almost everybody. So that's what we're going to do today, because this is a nice day look that we're going for. So all you're going to need is 2 colors, and so you're going to need 2 brushes. For eyeshadow, we always want to use round brushes, okay? For the first color I put on is always going to be the crease color, which is going to be kind of like your light to medium color in the palette. And for that one, you want to use a round brush, but one that's a little bit less compact or tight compared to a tighter, rounder one. That's what we're going to use for our second color. So first color is going to be more of a fluffy brush, and I'm going to go into this color right here. So you want to use the lightest to kind of the medium light color in the palette, and that's what we're going to use first. Looking straight, I want you to look straight. If you look at someone's eye, we all have some type of a crease, right? So while you're looking in the mirror, you want to mark where that crease color is still going to show up when your eyes are open. Once you've marked it, you can then put the mirror on the counter, because now you're going to look down. If you're doing this yourself, mirror's down here, you're going to lift, take that round brush, stick it right where that crease is, and you can literally let go and do what I call windshield wiper. Back and forth, back and forth. That's why you want that roundness to the brush. So it fits right in the crease, let it go, back and forth. And what I want you to notice is I'm not taking it all the way across. I'm doing the last maybe 75% of the eyes, and then I'm going to take it and I'm going to go straight down. Not straight down, but more of an angle towards the end of the lashes. So when she opens, we've created the illusion of a crease. Now without adding any more color, look down, I'm going to slightly brush it towards the center. Because if you go all the way across, it may be too much. So that's why I want you to concentrate on the outer third of the eye first. Open your eyes, look in the mirror, see where that crease color is. If you're liking it, leave it there. If you want to bring it in a little, go ahead and do that with just what's left on the brush. So this is called the windshield wiper method. I added a little bit of color. There's her crease. I'm gonna put it right there. Open your eyes, and just go back and forth. There's your crease. And then you're going to bring it at an angle down towards that last slash. And that's kind of where you want to take the color, is no further than that angle of that last lash. You need to add more color. Now, here's the other thing I want you to make sure you're paying attention to is when you look at our faces, they aren't completely symmetrical. So in this case, what I'm noticing is her crease is a little bit higher here, meaning the lid, the top lid here, overpowers a little bit more on this eye than that eye. So in this case, I could take that crease color up just slightly more so that I'm creating that symmetrical look between both eyes. So when you're learning how to do this crease, looking at your eyes and looking at both of them and seeing where you need to make the adjustment, that's where you're going to get better at. But in the beginning, doing this windshield wiper technique is really going to help you get used to how to apply and where to apply this color. So that's our crease color. Next color, again, we're only doing two because this is your day look. I'm gonna grab another round brush, but it's a little bit tighter now. I'm gonna go into either of my medium tone colors, which is these two right here. I'm just gonna go with this one for now. And this time, I'm going to focus just on the outer corner of her eyes. So the application is going to be a sideways V. And I'm literally gonna do that sideways V, open, sideways V. Once I've got it on there, now without adding any more color, you can actually remove some of this if you need to. But now I'm gonna go in and I'm going to blend it all the way. Not all the way across, but I am just softening it. Because the thing with eyeshadows is you don't want to know where one color starts and one color ends. You want it to all blend together. So when I blend this outer corner, I'm really just blending it out here. If you need to create separation between the two, you can go back to your other brush. And now I'm going to blend that lighter color a little further in. You see how I'm connecting everything. Next step, we're still on the eyes, but for a day look, let's say you don't have time to put on an eyeliner and you don't have time to put on the fake lashes. The one thing that can open the eyes up is definitely your lashes. So for this look, because we're assuming you don't have much time, we're only going to do mascara. Quick tip on mascara, shelf life, I try to keep it at 6 months and replace it. Pumping is going to push air in, so I always encourage you to twist, to go in there and get more color and then bring it out. Now when you're doing mascara, you want the majority of the product to be at the base of the lashes because we're trying to create that illusion of the lashes looking thicker and longer. I'm going to lift up from the lid and go right at the base of the lash. Especially if you have shorter, thinner lashes, it's really important to make sure you're applying most of the color, or most of the product, I should say, at the base of the lash. Especially if you're not going to do any kind of eyeliner. Now for more lashes that kind of go straight down, you can incorporate curling the lashes. you would probably want to curl them before you put the mascara on. So I go to the base, I wiggle it, and then I pull it straight up. And the reason you don't want to put too much at the tip of the lashes is because as you're blinking, that's where we start to get the raccoon eyes, because the mascara, if you've got too much on the tip, as you blink, it's falling down. Now, if you have a tendency to, let's say, sweat, or you're going to work out, or you're going to be in a more humid type of environment, I like using tubing mascara, because tubing mascara utilizes polling mirrors, so it literally creates a little encapsulation around each lash, and so it doesn't tend to come off and smear like normal traditional mascara. If you have trouble getting right at the base of the lashes, you can use that same technique where you put the mirror on the counter so that you're looking down and then lifting your lid and getting right at that base. So that is the last step for the eyes, unless you want to go ahead and do some more, some eyeliner, or if you wanted to go ahead and add some lashes. And I think for this one, I think we want to add some lashes. So I'm going to go ahead and pop on some lashes for her, and I'm going to show you how to do this really quick. I'm going to pop on some strip lashes. I like the Ardell Naked lashes. These are the 424. They still look very, very natural, even though she has smaller lashes. This is slightly longer than her own lashes, so it's still going to look really natural for a day look. And we're applying the lashes that we always want to measure first. So I'm going to have her look down, and I'm just going to pop it on there and see it's a little too wide. So I'm going to snip off corners. So once you've done measuring them, I'm going to grab my lash glue. I like the ones with the wand because you can go right along the base. And you want to put a pretty good amount on all the way across, but go ahead and add a little extra right on the outer corners, because what happens is if your lashes start to fall off or loosen, it's because either end popped off. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to roll it, because we don't want those ends coming off. And then I'm just going to let it dry slightly, because you don't want to apply this while the glue is still wet. That is one of the biggest mistakes most people do, is they put it on too soon. So you want it to be slightly tacky, and the reason you want it to be tacky is because the application now makes it so much easier. I'm going to aim for the center, and if it's tacky, I can let it go and it stays put open. And now I'm going to adjust the corners as needed. So you can see it's a big transformation, but it still looks quite natural. So I'm just going to make sure that corner is attached really well. So you want to make sure that they're not in the tear duct too far. So as you notice, we have little tiny baby hairs as it gets closer to the tear duct. So I don't want to take those lashes all the way there, because naturally that's not how long they are. And also that's what causes people to tear up as well, because it's going to start irritating the inner tear duct. So you can see it makes quite a dramatic difference just putting on these strip lashes. And you don't have to do eyeliner if you don't want to. Obviously, if you did, it does create more of a transformation again. What I like about this particular lash glue is it starts off white, and then as it gets tacky, it actually turns into a translucent color. And then eventually it will completely dry and be invisible. You won't see a white line there. So I like utilizing this tool because I can get really up close to the eyes. I'm gonna lift up slightly. I'm aiming for the center. Open eyes. And now I'm gonna adjust the corners. You really wanna make sure you secure those corners, because that's going to help keep them from popping off. All right, so that wraps it up for the eyes. Before we finish this whole look off, we do need 2 more steps, which is our cheeks and our smile, our lip color. But as you notice, her skin is, everything we put on her so far is still wet, and it has that nice, beautiful glow, which we do love. But you have to remember, whenever you apply something that's wet onto the skin, as the heat of the body emulsifies the product, it's going to start to move around. And so my clients who say, I put on my foundation and by midday it's all gone, it's because it's moved around and probably just either gotten absorbed into the skin, or things that have touched your face, it's starting to move and come off. So you want to set everything in place, and the best way to do that without changing the color of the foundation is to apply a translucent powder. So that's going to be our next step. Okay, so now we want to set everything before we finalize with our last 2 steps. As you already see, the heat of the body has started to emulsify the product, so things start to slide and move around. So I want to come in here one more time with my sponge and just blend it all in, because if you start to see like the makeup's maybe looking a little crepey, or like it looks like it's caking up, it's just because of the heat of the body. So I'm going to go in there and just slightly touch it up. Now we're going to use our powder puff right here and a translucent powder. I'm going to put it right on the tip. Look up. I'm going to start under the eyes, and I'm going to lightly start applying this powder. And I'm not going to add any more. I'm going to start just setting the makeup in place. It looks like a lot under the eyes because I'm going to let it sit there for just a few more minutes. I'm going to add a little bit more going on the chin. Especially if you have combination or oily skin, this is a nice step because it will really ensure that the makeup does not start melting off your face. Now, if you're worried that now you're going to look a little too matte, it's okay, because we're going to actually set everything with the setting spray that gives a little bit of luminosity once we're done. Skin looks nice, all prepped. Now we're going to add a little bit of color to the face with our cheeks. Now the reason I didn't do the cheek color first is because the face was still wet, and if I tried to apply a dry cheek color on there, it might streak. So if you're noticing that happening with your blushes, go ahead and put a little bit of setting powder first and then apply your powder. So I'm going to grab my cheek palette, and I want you to grab a round, fluffy brush. It's not tight, it's very fluffy and airy, because the more fluffy, the more airy the powder is, the less it's going to pick up and the less it's going to dispense. And with cheek color, you don't really want too much on there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cheek colors. There's no lip color yet. If you're struggling to figure out what cheek color looks best on you, the best thing to do is take the color and look right at the lip color and see which ones harmonize with your natural lip. So obviously, if you're born with this skin or this lip color, then anything that harmonizes with it is going to look great on the cheeks. For a day look, she could do just that, but I'm going to mix these two together. She's got these beautiful cheekbones. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the top of the ear, and I'm going to imagine this diagonal from the top of the ear down towards the bottom of where that cheekbone is, and I'm going to create a diagonal. Now I'm going to take the brush and I'm going to start blending that back towards that diagonal. You don't want to go past the nose, and you don't want to go past the middle of the eyes. So that's top of the ears right there. I'm going to create a diagonal to the bottom of the cheekbone. And I'm going to take the clean side and start blending it back. Take whatever's left. I can do a C, little C, to give a little bit more contour and dimension to the face. So that's all cheek colors are for, or blush color, is to bring a little bit more color to the skin. And especially if you're going to go and take photos, we have three-dimensional faces, but cameras, that once you look at the pictures after you take a photo, is very flat. And so you want to create dimension and color to your skin and your face before you jump in front of that camera. Okay, we're going to finish off the look with our lip color and a lip gloss. Again, you can mix the two. So I went ahead and put a little bit of gloss on my palette, grabbed some lip color with my disposable lip brush, mixing the two. Remember, I'm trying to get out the door here. And I'm just going to go ahead and apply. I'm going to use the stiffness of this brush as if I'm creating a lip line all the way across, down the lips. I'm going to fill the entire lip area. Now, mix that all up for me. Perfect. It's a really nice neutral color, but it still gives her enough color for the day. Of course, we still have that powder in the eyes, so now we're going to remove that excess powder. Take a powder brush, and you're just going to come under, and you're going to remove the excess powder. Alright, just gonna make sure we don't have any excess powder. Now we want to set this beautiful palette here. I'm going to take my setting spray. And I want to leave it on there wet. So. See how the glow came back even though we put powder all over her face? So that's definitely another reason why you want to set it all. And there's our final look. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm your host, Monina Wright. Please like, share, subscribe to the Modern Beauty YouTube channel. See you on the next video.